Hello, Rod here. So it's only a few more days until VR2 is out, and all the reviews and the tech breakdowns all indicate it's going to be quite a good headset. And the reviews for Horizon Call of the Mountain are also out. The new version of Firewall still to be released. But there's a game I have quite a lot of experience with that I want to cover here, and that is No Man's Sky. Yes, it's been out for quite a while, but it's far from the game that it was at launch. And it's a title that's been VR compatible for quite some time. It also being one of the few multiplayer games at launch, it may be fun to have a game that you can play with friends. And I know it's not a game for everyone, but in this video I'll go through some of the elements, the tips and tricks so you've got a better idea what this game's all about, and hopefully make it a less daunting experience. And at this very moment in time, it's actually on sale, and it will be till the 2nd of March. But don't worry if you don't want to get this game during this sale, because Hello Games likes to put this game on sale just before a major update, which means it will be available again on sale at a future date, in the not too distant future. So onto an overview of the game with some very useful tips and tricks, covering some of the major changes that just happened to the game, and some features the game doesn't tell you. When you first start up a new save, you're presented with this mode window. Normal is the mode that most people play in, and the new Relax mode is normal on very easy. Basically, it's a major reduction in the grind, and if you're time poor, that's probably a really good mode. And normal and relax can play together, so it's another benefit. Creative is the mode that people who like building prefer the most, but I would play normal or relax for the first 20-30 hours. Community expeditions are events that happen every 8 weeks or so, as it says, the limited time events. Survival mode is a mode that needs some reworking at the moment, but you share the same space as permadeath, which we'll get to in a minute. But finally, you have custom mode, and this gives you the ability to customize most of the features in the game. It is also in here where you'll find the permadeath mode. Like the title suggests, once you die, you're permanently dead. Let's scroll back to normal mode, and down at crafting and item settings, if you so wish, you can turn everything to free. You can do that at any point in the game, but you can also lock the save, therefore preventing you from being tempted. Okay, let's load one of my saves. I've loaded into one of my bases and one of my hub worlds, and in this planet there's quite a few bases made by other players as well. So as well as it being an exploration game, it's also a community building game. Once you get tired of shooting and blasting and other VR titles, this is a good title to relax, explore and just chill. But it does have some combat as well, like pirates, monstrosities and sentinels. And once you've played through the initial story, it's the kind of title you return to boot up from time to time, especially when you need breaks from other games. And as it's multiplayer, you can mess around with a few friends. In fact, I've found myself messing around with friends so much that we've done absolutely nothing but mess around. Okay, onto the game elements, and most importantly, the tips and tricks. One of the features that some people are put off by is all the resource collecting at the early game, but that really is just an early game element. And 10-20 hours into the game, it's an occasional thing, not a constant. And with the new custom mode, you can turn that off completely if you wish. But if you choose not to turn it off, here's the things you have to mind. You can get carbon from plants, ferrite dust from small rocks. These small blue plants boost your jets, so you can move quickly in the early game. And of course, the hydrogen is also quite important early game. And to highlight things, you just hit scan, which is one of the first things that you'll have to repair. But the first big tip that the game doesn't tell you, if you hit your rockets, jump, and melee at the same time, you can scoot across the planet really quickly. And when you've done some exosuit upgrades, that can be quite some distance. But be warned, early game, it can be fatal, and in permadeath, it can be game ending. And to activate it by hitting the jump and melee at the same time, you probably have to do it a few times just to get the keystroke right, but it will become second nature quite quickly. Early game, sodium is quite important, as that's what's used to refill your hazard protection, and oxygen is also quite important. And since the update, it's become a bit of a rarity, so oxygen is a priority. Unless you're in relax mode, then it's fairly easy to find. Another good source of oxygen is these hazardous plants, but if you get too close, well, they can do damage obviously. And with these hazardous plants, you can pluck the gassy pods to get extra oxygen, but if you get too close, they might explode in your face. Once you've upgraded your multi-tool a little bit, you'll be able to mine these larger crystals. And these larger rocks as well. But don't forget to scan them to reveal the second element and get some units. Caves are very important early game as they give you protection from storms. It's also where you'll find cobalt. While you're in the cave, your hazard protection will recover. There'll be some plants to give you carbon, to help with life support, and most importantly, these plants here, which will give you marrow bulb. So when you put down a portable refiner, which you will also get early game, you can then refine the marrow bulb into sodium. And of course using carbon to fuel it. To make a portable refiner, you'll need oxygen and metal plates. To make the metal plate, you'll need ferric dust and an empty slot in your exosuit. By clicking on the empty slot, you can bring up the crafting menu. On the subject of refining, personal refiner is one of those things that everyone will tell you to get early game. You'll find that in the anomaly, but I'll get to that later. Another quite useful tip: when you go in camera mode, you can scan the terrain around you, so you can quickly look for caves and other resources nearby. This is especially useful when you're in permadeath mode, especially when a storm hits and your protection is dropping really quickly. Also, using your scanner helps you find other resources and indicates the distance, so you can find things like that copper, which you will need, but you can also refine into chromatic metal. Another item that you need a lot of is buried technology modules. That is where you'll find the salvage data which you require for base parts, and you'll need a lot of them. And don't forget to scan every rock, tree and animal that you see, because not only do they give you units, but when you upload your discoveries to the server, and you can rename your discoveries as well as the planet you're on, you'll get nanites for those discoveries. Next to discoveries, you'll find a catalogue and guide, which is self-explanatory really. And next to that, you've got the log, where you'll find your primary missions, which is really worth playing through because at the end of one of them, you'll get all 16 glyphs, which means you can easily portal around the whole universe, but I'll touch on that in a bit. But you'll also get a lot of very useful rewards from the secondary missions as well. And inside the option menu, you can quickly access the difficulty setting to make things harder or a lot easier. Okay, let's leave the planet and head to the space station. The space station is that little circle there. Once we're out the ship, let's start with this side of the space station. This guy here is where you'll get your maps, more on that later. From this guy you'll pick up some missions. But this guy is where you'll get missions that will be really helpful early game. The rewards from these missions changes on a regular basis. In this case, we've got exosuit upgrades, which are quite important, as you'll need them for personal storage. And most of the things that you have to do are the kind of things you're going to do in the game anyway. The Galactic Terminal is where you can buy and sell things, but the more stuff you buy or the more stuff you sell will affect the economy prices, indicated by the plus and minuses next to the items. In occasional space stations, you will see these travellers. If you give him the right response, he will give you 100 nanites. And if you interact with him again and ask him where he's from, You'll give the location of his grave, which will reward you with a portal glyph, or in later game, high level modules. Okay, let's head to the other side. This is where you can modify and upgrade your ship as well as scrap it. This is where you can modify your own appearance. This is where you can upgrade your exosuit as well as buying modules for your exosuit. This is where you can get exocraft modules. This is where you can get ship modules. This is where you can buy a multi-tool, upgrade your multi-tool, and buy multi-tool modules. If you've got a module you like, you can simply buy it, go to your ship, get in your ship, out your ship, reload, and it'll reset. And don't forget to check this galactic terminal, because sometimes it has different items. Another feature of the game, you can buy any ship you want that you see in the game. And if you scan them, it will show you its class. A useful but subtle feature, the class is player Pacific, which means you won't be fighting over ships with friends. And if you've got stuff to sell, it's best to sell it to the traders, as this won't crash the economy. And when buying ships, you'll have two options. You can buy the ship outright, you've got space for 9 ships in total, or you can exchange the ship you're flying at that moment in time. And finally, there's a space teleporter, which will allow you to jump back to your base or places you visited previously. Except for pirate space stations. You can only get to them by flying to them when you've got a teleport at your base or from the anomaly. It's also a location where you'll easily find solar ships. But to get a good idea of what kind of sails they have, you'll have to fly outside and use photo mode. The final location for finding ships is trading posts. Also, when you're looking for portals, which I'll get to later, you should purchase either the Gek Relic, the Kovacs Casting, or in this case, the Viking Dagger. Okay, next up, crafting, and it's got a lot easier. When you select the empty slot and the crafting menu pops up, you now have the option View Crafting Steps. When you select that, it gives you this window now. So you can craft each of the stages as you go along. And you also have the ability to build them in multiples. Up next, bases, and what I regard as the most important items that you should focus on first, which is the base terminus. This will allow you to jump back and forth from the space station and all other places you've previously visited. So when you have enough salvage data, buy the base teleporter module, the battery, and the solar panel. The electrical wire is free. You will have to buy the biofuel reactor, but it's useful to have if people visit your base, just in case it's not powered up. Okay, back into space. After a few jumps, you'll have the option to have a freighter battle, but I'll let you discover that one on your own. Now it's time to go to Anomaly and have a little tour of that. As you can see, as I've landed the Anomaly, because I got multiplayer off, there's no one here. So let's turn multiplayer back on. It'll take a few moments for everyone to pop in. And there they are, and there's a couple of starter ships. A blue solar ship in the background there. A needle-nosed fighter, and an exotic sitting there in the background. Let's head towards the Quicksilver Merchant, commonly referred to as Johnny 5. This is where you'll get your Quicksilver items, different appearances, different base items, all sorts of stuff. The big square thing, that's called the Nexus. That's where you'll get your daily and weekly Quicksilver missions. Let's head up these stairs. When you're playing through the story, you'll find yourself speaking to Nada and Polo quite a lot, but most importantly at the back here is where you'll find quite a lot of the upgrade modules that you require in the game. One of them being the personal refiner, an exosuit upgrade, and a kiosk you'll probably find yourself visiting a lot, the one that has most of the base parts. And as we head back, we can head to the Interstellar terminus. Where you'll find featured bases that you can visit, previous space stations that you've visited, including the pirate ones, and the bases of the people who are in the anomaly at that time. And you might be lucky, some of them might have built farms where you can get easy units. And of course, you can return to your own base. And finally, portals. When you're on a planet, each planet has its own unique set of glyphs. These are used to easily get around the systems. But remember, they're specific to each galaxy you're in. So the first galaxy you land in will be Euclid. This is Euclid, that's a Euclid portal globe. To get all the glyphs, you can either finish the story and jump 16 times, or you can visit 16 traveller graves. But to find a portal, you have to return to the space station. Exchange one navigation data for a specific map. Inhabited outposts is useful for finding minor settlements where you can get multi-tools as well as other useful stuff. But the one we're after is the ancient artifact site. If you don't have any navigation data, you'll probably find it lying around in the space station. It'll be these round little disc things, little blue cubes, or in this case, orange cubes. When you get to the planet that you want to find the portal on, now you've got out your ship, you've created a restore point save. You're free to click on the map. In this case, it was an ancient artifact site, so we have to do a reload. So select the restore point save. The map is now reset, you can pop it again. And the location that we're looking for, the alien monolith, is now popped up. We can now head to the monolith by leaving the atmosphere and then flying back in. When we get our ship, we can collect the knowledge stones. Head back to the ship to create a restore point. We're presented with a question, we have to answer it right, but as we've created a restore point, we can reload the save if you get it wrong. Little beam of light popped out, we got it right. Interact with the monolith one more time. And now the portal location has been revealed. We can now head there, and it gives us the ability to go anywhere in the galaxy, getting us the ability to find the best ships and the best multi-tools in the game by simply inputting the portal code. And if you're on a planet by yourself, it's really worth building a base nearby but not too close, which means you can have access to your own personal portal at any time you want. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, hit that like and subscribe button, or on the bell thingy. And of course, thank you for watching. See you all later.